Hey guys, welcome to the very first behind the scenes episode of Skylines Invicta. And of course, because this is a collaboration project, I'm not alone. I'm here with my friend City Walk City Wall. Hi, buddy, welcome.
Hello, how are you doing, Skib?
Doing very well right now. We are actually both doing very well. I can tell you that. But before we spoil anything about this series, everyone, you have to know, because this is a behind the scenes video. At this very moment, there is the story episode running on City Walk City Wall's YouTube channel, and we really actually advise you to go and watch that first before watching this, because otherwise we will spoil lots of stuff, and we don't want that. Plus, the story is absolutely amazing. No regrets.
Yeah, we're going to be going into talking about, how we did the stuff in that episode. So it wouldn't really make too much sense if you haven't seen that first. So yeah, definitely go check that out. Pause this video, come back in a little bit.
Yes, exactly. So no spoilers. Otherwise, it's on you. You can even watch it afterwards. So first things first. Of course, nothing can start without having a map. That's for sure, right? So we start by doing this map for our series here, and City Walk.
When did we start this, Skib?
Oh my god!
This was like in June maybe, or May even.
I don't know. I think somewhere around May towards June, probably somewhere there.
Oh, actually, I think I can pull it up here. My first footage is dated May 24th.
Oh my god.
So it's been a while. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we did those guest builds in each other's cities, and we had a blast doing it. And we were talking about maybe we wanted to do a collaboration project. What should it be? We spent a while brainstorming something.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, I had an idea for a city that it was something that I was trying to do maybe on my own, and then you asked about this, and you said, I'm down for anything as long as it's not a tropical island. And I was like, oh my god, that's exactly what I was thinking of doing. But then I kind of like explained the idea to you a little bit more, and you were down, and we made a map, right? And we used terrain.party, the website, in order to get like real height data. So I basically just like took height data from the tops of different mountains around the US, because the US is really the only place that has really, really high quality terrain data from that website. So I think this island here, what you're looking at, is the top like 20% of a mountain in Alaska, if I recall. But so basically we brought that data into City Skylines and just had a completely empty map, just terrain, and we started playing around with making tropical forests. And it's impossible. It's like you can't do it in City Skylines and continue using your frames per second. Like it was, we would be making presets with the forest brush, having all these little like ferns and ground coverings and palm trees and all this tropical stuff, and it's just like incredibly high tries, right? And they're really small plants, and so you need like hundreds of thousands of them. And I think after a little while of doing that, we were like, man, this I don't know, not so sure if this can actually be tropical. So we decided to change the setting to something where we could use the gray flame pine trees, a little bit colder setting. So that's what we ended up going with. The other thing that we were really trying to do here was have some impressive looking cliffs, right, Skib? So
yeah, exactly. So of course, after the terrain was done, we needed a proper mountain. That's what we were thinking of. And let's be honest, the no matter what map theme you use for cliffs, they will never look, I want to say another word, but super good as you actually want to. And because this is
and there's certain shapes that you can't even do with the terrain, like we wanted it to be kind of like an actual vertical cliff here.
Yeah, exactly, like this one, for instance. Or look at this perfect shape, curved shape, I mean, and that's not doable in City Skylines. I mean, on a map, on a cliff, as a cliff or on a terrain. You cannot modify it like this. Plus, it will stretch it at a super ugly way, and you can't do that. So we figured out, hey, what we can do in this case, we can actually do some proper rock work, and of course we use the same beautiful rocks made by Grey Flame. Oh my god.
This was really a lot of trial and error trying to figure out the best way to do this, because we originally started out by kind of like hodgepodge different rocks, kind of make like a cliff out of so that it didn't all look the same. And the more that we did that, it was like, man, this is like looking not natural at all. In real life, when you have a really big cliff, it does actually look pretty uniform all around because it's made of the same type of rock. It's all kind of very similar. So after a while of trial and error here, we decided we should mainly just use one rock and then maybe have a second rock in there to kind of spice things up a little bit. So it's basically just one Grey Flame rock that's scaled up incredibly large, and the scale of it also didn't really change. We didn't really make it larger or smaller as we were continuing to copy and paste it, because that also would look weird if the scale of kind of the details of it were changing. So doing it as a Grey Flame rock, as a procedural object, really large procedural object, allowed us to do these really awesome custom shapes, and also just gave these cliffs all this like extra detail that it wouldn't otherwise have. So that was like thing one in this build, that we were like, we gotta spend some extra time and effort and take extra care to make these cliffs look really different and realistic. And to be honest, man, we spent too long on this. It was,
yes, I do remember.
It was like pretty brutal, honestly, how long we spent on these cliffs. It was like a month at least, maybe even 2 months.
Yeah.
I could probably look here at date my footage when it's dated, but
definitely that's not the case. I mean, it's like people should not understand that we worked every single day of an entire month. No, we have our both projects plus real life plus some our own jobs, and that's also important. But we worked quite a lot.
We were placing this down up until the end of July, so it was quite a while of doing these rocks.
Yes, indeed. So I will probably, you guys already saw in some shots the other, let's say, side of the peninsula here, where we have some extra rocks.
Yeah, so this was your idea, Skib, this area. So
well, I've seen some pictures and I was like, hey, we can do these kind of things, why not? Plus in real life you can actually do see some kind of things like this, or even like these ones in China. I think there are lots of peaks like this on top of a mountain, and
yes, there's a very famous like national park or something
exactly
like that.
So hey, it's kind of doable in real life and also in science fictional real.
Yeah, I mean, if you recall, Skib, it used to be an island, right? And then when we got Templin on board with the project, basically, Templin asked if I wanted to collab with him on his Skylines Invicta project in order to, create the capital city for his interstellar nation, so that he could use animated footage as opposed to just concept art like he did for season 1. And that was one of the things, like when we showed him what we had done so far, the map we had made. I think it was about the point when we had finished, all these cliffs. He was like, it probably should be a peninsula, because that would make a little bit more sense with our story. And that's not really a big change for we can obviously go and make an island into a peninsula, but I'm not an expert at terraforming. Skib, I know your little France map is 100% flat, so
yes.
We're not like the people who after the fact can easily go make a peninsula. So it was a little bit difficult, and we were trying to figure out ways to make it look cool. And Skib, you came up with this awesome idea to do these rocks like this, and so it turned into kind of like this crazy sort of swampy peninsula that connected from this island to the mainland. And so it's not an island anymore, but this area I think would be pretty untouched even after the city is built. and also, this is more. This maybe is more like, maybe there's some ways that connect to the mainland, some sort of rail vehicles that go through here, but otherwise it's pretty deserted area, I would say. Pretty left up into nature and stuff.
Yeah, we went for something like from Peninsula, you go to the, let's say, to the biggest part of the, I don't want to say continental area, but as soon as you go far away from this area, there are not so many trees and rocks, but the trees, well, we will find the story. You guys, you can you can hear the story better from the other video, how these trees popped up here. And I was looking at this one. It's here from when we took the teaser.
Oh yeah, that little guy. Well, that's not gonna stay probably.
No, of course, yeah. That was just for one shot. But let's talk about one more thing here, and that's the waterfalls. We wanted to, because hey, we have water here, and one of us had the idea. I think it was you, to say, hey, we should add some waterfalls as well. And of course, we played with these beautiful little props that actually work. And they look like they are falling, like water falling.
Yes,
really cool. Plus the prop water here. But I want to say a little shout out here to Not Done Yet for letting us using his rocks. We used, beside the ones made by Grey Film, we use these rocks. There are like 9 sorts of rocks. And thank you so much, Not Done Yet, for leaving us, for letting us using them. They are super cool.
Yeah, they're incredibly detailed.
Yes, exactly. And in some cases, they are actually perfect for what we wanted to.
Let's see that other waterfall on the other side that I did. I have sort of a pet peeve when you stretch these too far, and all of a sudden the animation is going much faster than it was intended, so I kind of made these out of a bunch of different little ones. So this one is actually made of real water, so this has a water generator up at the top level, and it's different lakes that fall down with the in-game sort of physics, and continues all the way down and then empties out into the ocean at the bottom. But this was also a little tedious with the rock work, getting that river really skinny. Both of these rivers, getting them very skinny by placing down gray flame rocks, like protruding into where the game water is, so that if you make a river in game, it's usually much wider than that. But I think the effect is pretty cool, and it's going to be really fun placing in the actual city, placing buildings around and over the top of these streams and things, and really having the architecture of the city like interact with some water and stuff, which you can check out, I think, in the Skylines Invicta episode 1 that came out last week. There's a bunch of shots of the Parliament, which has a stream going through it as well. Okay, so that's about the map build here. The next thing to talk about is how we got from this to the 7AL build, which is 7 years after landing. Exactly. What we did afterwards, after we finished the map, almost finished the map, because I think we brought some very small changes in time. We had to work on the spaceship. We had to prepare the teaser, so we needed a spaceship anyways. For everything we needed that spaceship, and oh my god, I do remember how many trial and errors I had to take for starting the build for it. I had quite some combinations of buildings, because I've tried so many buildings and even futuristic ones, which actually were super helpful. And I think after 3 or 4 takes on it, I finally got with, let's say, a little template, and I said, okay, I can continue from here. And putting all together, of course, with procedural objects, nothing you can't do that without it. And yeah, we come out with a really cool spaceship. Yeah, so it's a lot of buildings that are placed together in obviously really crazy ways in order to get it to look like these, buildings that are meant to be in a city are actually, giant spaceship that's supposed to have 80,000 people inside of it, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. So it has to be huge, humongous.
Yeah. So Skib, you did the kind of like the main, how is the ship gonna look? What are the main pieces of it? And then I kind of went through and added on a bunch of details to it. I kind of worked mainly in the rear side of the ship, adding in some big thrusters and things like that.
Yeah.
And some little details, some lights and stuff for when it's nighttime, and kind of giving it those final touches. And we built this like in the middle of the water, right? Not anywhere near the island. We built it, I think we just raised up some terrain underneath it, and we're building on top of that.
Yeah, because we needed flat terrain just to build that.
Yeah. And so I don't know if you saw any of those like teaser photos of the ship that got released back in like September, maybe. That's about the stage those were taken at when we were still those aren't really accurate to the story, because you can see a lot of trees in those photos, which the ship wouldn't have wouldn't have been flying when trees existed, which is a little bit of a story inconsistency, but it is what it is. So basically, the next thing we had to do was delete all the trees that we had placed down. Obviously, we saved a version of the map with the trees so that we can go back and have all of them again, because there were a lot of hand-placed trees, like thousands of them probably. And then, it was about starting to film and get shots of this spaceship arriving to this desolate peninsula. Basically, there's like one or two shots in the video where the ship is like arriving to the island, and that's like the very first thing we filmed. Obviously, in those shots, or in that one shot, the ship is moving, and that's not possible in City Skylines because it's just procedural objects. So there's a cool little technique that we started using. This was the first place we used it, and we continued to use it as well, where we filmed the same shot like multiple times. So we would film it once with the ship there, and then once without the ship there. And then in post-production and After Effects, you can kind of like cut out the ship and then place it on the empty background and then move it around. So that was a cool little fun experiment, getting that working. So the next thing was placing this ship down in its final resting spot, because basically the idea is that the ship can't necessarily land anywhere it wants. We were thinking it probably needed to land in the water to be safe, and then get kind of pushed to somewhere that it can rest, somewhere safe. And so there's this little bay here that we placed it down in. We eventually got it into a good sort of position here in this bay, kind of like it, shoved itself into the ground here, and to prevent itself from kind of drifting away in the water. But it is still like kind of half submerged, and that's its final resting place. That's where the Sakalo eventually gets, maybe 50, 100 years from now, gets decommissioned completely. So in the story of Skylines Invicta, this place, has a breathable atmosphere. It might be a little cold, but these people can exit their ship and, start kind of like trying to figure out ways to survive here on this planet. And so we kind of had to do a build here that was a little bit of a makeshift, kind of like, just taking stuff out of the ship and putting it onto the land, and doing, minimal things like some mining operations, some attempts to get power, to continually supply their ship with power in order to be able to use the onboard farms and being able to heat the ship and things like that. But the problem, obviously, if you saw the episode, which hopefully you did, is that there wasn't really enough power. And not only that, but the soil here was unable to really grow plants in it that you would hope. It's alien soil. It's not really like the perfect thing for earth plants to be grown in. So there was a lot of little tiny builds here and there trying to figure out ways to convey these ideas visually. So the first thing that got built was these little windmills, which I made out of some metal beams and some tarps, as if like they were really, really makeshift windmills. There's a cool shot in the episode where the windmills are actually spinning, which is impossible, obviously, because it's just made out of props. But that was another cool little editing effect where I kind of painstakingly rotated the windmills bit by bit in order to take like 30 screenshots where the windmills are just rotating just a little bit, and then played the screenshots as a video, and made it look like they were spinning, and then looped the video over and over to make it as long as we needed to. So that was a fun little effect. It also required a custom asset, making this little ground cable network, which is also important for the story of the episode, but this was the first place it got placed down, kind of connecting these different windmills. And then kind of beyond the windmills up here, you did a cool build, Skib.
Yeah, well, this one, it was actually just something I had in mind. Like they had to place these big antennas, and I thought, why not making something out of containers, because it was like, hey, very soon after they landed, they needed to put it on a vantage point, it's called, I think. Anyways, so I had an idea, why not doing something like that on a metal beam skillet here and so on. Yeah, it was something. But let's talk more about what's right next to the spaceship here, and the reason why they are all out here. And that's because they, of course, first things first, when you land is to start trying to build something, right?
Yeah, so the first thing that I did was I added a bunch of gates, like entrances and exits on the ship. I was kind of thinking of how like a cruise ship has different doors along the side of it that you can, they make little ramps, and you can walk down and get to the dock or whatever. So that's sort of the inspiration I was thinking of, and made these really custom ramps and entrances and exits and little checkpoints, so that you can walk in and out. And the way that's set up is we use the Parkify mod. So inside the ship is a fully functioning city. There's all sorts of different industrial cubes and commercial cubes and residential cubes and a fire department and all the things you need. But there's a park entrance building at each of these gates, and pedestrian paths that walk down from each gate and connect up to everything that's outside of the ship. And so everything outside the ship is technically a park, which when you use the Parkify mod means that you can place any park building on these pedestrian paths, and these people will walk out to them, which is kind of a cool mechanic. I didn't even know that existed until we started using it here. But so all the vehicles outside, there's two major vehicles that we're using. One is the Rust Bucket, kind of industrial vehicle, and that's a bus. And then also this Revo, really large rover vehicle that we commissioned specifically for this, that is also a bus. So these vehicles out here aren't super functional. It's not like mechanics of driving passengers or cargo or whatever around, but it is cool seeing them drive around. So that's like the centerpiece of this town. Is there's a single road that goes through it, and some pedestrian paths on either side to get allow citizens to walk to all these different places out here, all these different little parks. They're technically parks out here. And then it was just about thinking, what are the different things that would be in this city. So there is a landing strip. We were thinking that there would kind of be maybe a couple flying vehicles that came along with the ship, or maybe they built them here over the last 7 years since they landed, and they made a little landing strip so that they could do little reconnaissance missions and things like that. So there's a couple little hangars that are part of that, and a little control tower. It's a very, very small landing strip. And then there's a couple little blocks of sort of shacks and different little metal structures and tanks and businesses and things like that. We were thinking, this is obviously outside of the ship, but it's still sort of part of the ship a little bit. It's part of this whole colony, and maybe there are some more industrial focused businesses out here. Maybe they, you can go to one of these little shacks out here, and one business can buy ore from another business, or can buy steel beams, or something like that. So we were thinking that there's a lot of little huts and things and different places you can go. There's like one bar out here as well, where you can, if you're like a worker out here, you can go after a long day's work and get a drink before you go back inside the ship. So then on this far side over here, this was one of the first things I built, this little refueling area for the rust bucket vehicles on the far side. So there's a little loop where the rust bucket vehicles can kind of go underneath this structure and maybe get refueled by these tanks. So that was, I'm not exactly sure what these vehicles are doing, but I was, placing them down. These ones are all kind of parked at an angle using procedural objects. And there's a bus stop in there underneath that thing that they all stop at. There's this kind of sand facility here. Not exactly sure what that would be used for, but I'd imagine they'd have kind of piles of different types of ore or sand or whatever for different purposes. Maybe they use that sand to make glass or something along those lines.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was also mentioning, that first things you have to do, of course, after landing and do the scouting and whatnot on the island or peninsula in our case, you have to see what materials you have nearby and what you can use. Like for instance, you build this big boy that it's getting out some. It looks like it's getting up some rocks, right? Some stone.
Exactly.
Stones.
Yeah. So this is a mining building or mining little area here. This thing is really cool. I really like how this turned out. It's made out of basically all vanilla buildings. There's a vanilla building that has this yellow thing.
Yeah.
That I used procedural objects to get rid of the building part of it and just kept the yellow part. And then the base of it is a Vanilla Industries DLC ore mining building, I believe, that I took the top part of it I took away. So I just combined these two buildings into this one big thing and then put a little bit of extra details on it, but for the most part it's just two vanilla buildings smushed together. I wish the big rotating thing turned. That'd be cool if it animated, but it doesn't, obviously. But this other one over here does animate, because that's just a vanilla mining building inside of some other stuff. I kind of used these like dome shaped things and lined it up so that it looked like it was sort of attached to this arm that was, dealing with moving around some different ores or whatever it is. I made some custom smaller versions of that where I combined a quad Reuters tank with a small version of the same building. Scale, we got a little car driving around here.
How did you
delete them before anyone sees it?
How did you manage to take the shots without any vanilla?
I was just I don't even understand quite how cars get out here, because these roads aren't connected to anywhere that cars can normally drive.
Well, even if you have like a 1 segment long road, let's say, some people they get out of their pockets.
Yeah, but like when you're making an airport in this game, it's the same deal where you got a bunch of roads that aren't connected to the main road network, but people aren't driving out there. I don't know. Anyways, when I was just filming shots, I would be deleting the cars as I saw them, and then hope none spawned while the shot was filming.
Oh my god! Much. So you did this with the praying. Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah, but it is pretty rare that a car will show up out here. So yeah, there's the bar back there. There's a little these little rover things I made out of some tanks.
I was looking at them and I was like, what the hell is this? Because
it's like 6 different tanks put together there to make like a really weird vehicle. You can see there's like some storage behind it. Yeah, these things aren't.
Okay, interesting, man. See, that's the beauty of of procedural objects allows you to turn something out, and you can create your own new stuff. I mean, really,
Yeah, exactly.
if you didn't say anything, I wouldn't look at it right now to see if it's a procedural object or not. And actually, these are 3 cars into one plus other changes you made. But you have to tell as well to the guys that to everyone watching this that you also do some extra props and stuff for the series. Sadly, I am not good at creating stuff right now. I can't. It's a lot of stuff to work with, like creating new buildings or little props, roads, whatever. So you made up until now quite a lot of networks, roads, right? Some decals, if I'm not mistaken, for roads.
So this main road here going through the center
Yeah.
of the town I made. The reason being that the vehicle that Revo designed, this really large rover, is 6 meters wide, which is much wider than your average City Skylines car. So I needed to make a road that was that wide. So I made this dirt road, kind of muddy dirt road. I'm pretty happy with the way that it turned out, to be honest. It looks really cool, but it is a little glitchy. You can see right there the shadows of it. It's a little glitchy the way it's put together, but
in the shots, it doesn't look like that. That's
yeah, it is what it is. It looks really good from some angles,
Yeah,
and when
yeah.
other angles it doesn't look amazing. But yeah, I kind of had to make that to go along with the vehicle, or else it would be, if 2 were going in opposite directions on the same road, they would like kind of half run into each other just because the road's not big enough for them. So I placed these down all over and have different bus routes in different places where these big rovers can go drive around back and forth to different locations.
But man,
Yeah,
I
you can
do love this one. Is my favorite. I think assets you want from what you made so far. The cable one.
Yeah, the ground cables.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
they're really useful. I've been using them in Mars even too. They're great. Really cool asset.
It's really good. I mean, maybe if you can only just stay and look at it, probably you can say that, hey, at a point it's repetitive, but because of the terrain, it doesn't look like that. See, all cables are different. I mean, like that's sick.
This is where they sliced open the side of the ship in order to extract power from the batteries. There's a little hole in the side of the ship here, and the cable stretches out from here, and they laid this down all the way up this hill towards this kind of like radio tower up here, and then it splits off, and you can see right there's a rover that's going down off the road into a different direction. And so this is how you would get to ignore that he's driving through the road and in the air.
It doesn't matter, man.
Yeah, you can. At certain moments, it looks really good, him driving off road, but at other moments, it doesn't. But this is where you get to Fan's laboratory way back here. So this was another little build, and we did a lot of these kind of outposts all over the place. But this is obviously the one for the story where Fan, the scientist, kind of invented this way of growing trees that while they are able to grow in this alien dirt, unlike any other tree, they also they provide electricity for the city, which is kind of 2 birds with 1 stone. The functionality of them providing electricity is what allows them to grow in this soil. This little building here was the one that I made for the City Skylines asset creation tutorial series. I had a really tough time figuring out what I would make for that tutorial series. I had a lot of different ideas, but I ended up deciding to do this building. I mean, we would have made this building out of something else otherwise, but I think it's pretty cool that it has a custom building just for this.
True.
So yeah, and you can see in the episode, obviously these trees aren't quite as big around here. I mean, there's no trees to start off with, but then they're growing little trees, and by the time they get released from prison, there's quite a few trees on the island. You can see it kind of stretching out and new trees growing, and eventually that there'll be trees all over after a couple hundred years here. we saw in the background there, Skib, if you move the camera up forwards and zoom in, there's this giant blue thing.
Yes.
So this is how we did that shot, or the couple shots of the spaceship in space. So basically, this is a very, very simple asset that I made a long time ago. That anyone could make this. It's just basically a blue shape. There's also a green version that I made. And when you place stuff in front of it and film a shot, with something in front of the green screen or the blue screen, you can go into After Effects and use the key effect. There's a number of different key effects that come with the program in order to remove everything that's blue and make it transparent so that you can place this ship down anywhere. So this was pretty fun, basically creating like a fake background for it. And trying to match the lighting in game to the lighting where the sun was placed in the space shots in the background, and making a fake planet in After Effects and making this look like it was flying through space, even though it was just a shot from city skyline. So you can even probably do it with procedural objects, just using the regular PO square.
Yeah, that's how I do it usually. That's how I was doing it before. By the way, guys, so this is not Hollywood. What you see here, this is just Invicta wood. This is where everything is being filmed. That's why it's called behind the scenes, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you're getting to see how we actually film this stuff. The last thing to talk about here is the builds inside of the ship.
Yeah.
So this was another cool thing. Another little technique that we used, I think turned out better than I imagined, to be honest. It was really, really cool. So you can see like exactly where this is placed. It's exactly where it is in the shot. So we basically we did this build inside of the ship and then filmed a shot twice, once with the ship turned on and once with the ship turned off, and then combined the two in After Effects so that it looked like you could see through the window and into the farm. So that's one build. And then there's this other build here that's Fan the scientist's room here. That his spot on the ship. Here, there's his wife sleeping, and on the other side is him scrawling all over the wall. And this actually looks really good at night, Skib, if you turn it to night. So yeah, there's this was kind of the general way that we did all this stuff, is building it inside the ship. This particular shot never got combined with the outside one. We were just showing shots of the inside of it, but because of where it's built, you theoretically could have a shot looking through the outside of the ship, film it once, with the ship turned on, the PO layer of the ship turned on, and then once with it turned off, and you could kind of see both at the same time. This is his kitchen here, little stove or whatever. And then we also have the Parliament. No, what is it? The Colonial Assembly is what it's called, which is where Fan pitches his ideas to the people in charge of the colony, Sagalo. So you can see him here pitching his ideas. All the stuff here, by the way, is scaled way up. So this citizen is not normal citizen size. He's like 3 times the size of a normal citizen, just because it made filming it easier and building it easier, just because obviously there's no reference for scale for something like this. We can kind of make it larger if we need to, and that really helped filming it, not having to deal with minuscule little props, making everything slightly larger. So there he is, kind of showing off his calculations there on a whiteboard in front of these people. And
it's like tag.
Yes, well, if I recall, TACG are the letters for DNA, right? So this is a DNA sequence that he's showing you.
I see.
Something along those lines. This is, by the way, thanks to Steger, who drew out all these different sketches and scientific drawings and things that I then turned into a little custom asset that I could place down in different places. It's just a prop that has see-through, for the most part, background, just some lettering that's visible. And then we also have the build that is the prison over here where he gets locked up. We actually have 2 more builds. So this one looks good at night, Skib. So there's like a stairway that leads down, and you can see kind of the guards here letting Fan and Banza out of their cell. That's supposed to be the 2 of them, even though it's completely different props that were used in other places. But we have a limited supply of people props. It is what it is. You got to stretch your imagination just a bit. And then there's one last build inside the ship that's over here on the rear, and this is kind of the inside of like a big lookout where if you turn on the ship, you can see this is I believe a vanilla building. I think it's supposed to be in real life it's the city hall for London. Perhaps.
No,
I think that's what it is.
I don't actually know, but it's a big important building from somewhere.
Yeah, so these platforms, which by the way are made by Lumoy, so big thanks to him. He made a ton of custom platforms and stuff for us to use, and they've become very, very useful in the present day Sigalo build. But so we use those platforms to kind of create like a circular little area where we could place citizens there. And then again, it was filming the shot twice, one with the ship turned on and one with the ship turned off. And that's how we were able to get those effects of being able to see the citizens. I mean, the Colonial Assembly and Fan and Banza inside of that little lookout area, and also see the ship and the landscape around it at the same time. So that turned out to be a very useful little technique, filming the shots twice like that. Here, Skib, we have so this area over here we didn't talk about. This is kind of like the first attempts at first of all getting some solar farms, hopefully enough to power the ship, but ultimately not enough. And also the first attempts at farming a little bit behind us here, where all the plants died immediately. This is just like a bunch of scaled down, shrunken gray flame logs, like dead pine trees and stuff. We were hoping to get a custom asset for this, but ultimately it was too minor of a part of the story, and there was another way to do it with the tools we already had, so that's what we went with. So yeah, I had an absolute blast building this. It's a really unique style compared to anything else, kind of this like frontier land sci-fi, just barely hanging on kind of builds. Very unique and fun to build. There is a whole nother thing that Skib was simultaneously working on, which is the new Sigalo, or present day Sigalo, which is actually the capital. It takes place 400 years in the future from this 7 AL build. It's somewhere around 400 AL that takes place, and you can see shots from that at the very end of the episode, and also in the Templin Institute's Skylines Invicta Season 2, Episode 1, or I think it's the prologue. There's a number of shots in there as well of that build, but we're not going to get into that in this behind-the-scenes episode. We'll kind of show you guys exactly everything that went into that next month in the next behind-the-scenes episode, because next episode will be much more focused on that era of Skylines Invicta, of Sigalo. But quite a lot went into that as well, and really a lot had to get built in order to get those last couple shots of this episode. So it was really a long haul, lots of builds, lots of stuff that happened in order to get this project off the ground.
So guys, I think it's time to say goodbye. This is the end of this first episode of Behind the Scenes for Skylines Invicta. Next time it will be a switch. I will do the video, the story cinematic for Skylines Invicta, and City Walk will do the behind the scenes video. It will be like in 1 month from now. Don't forget to hit the like button, guys. Don't forget to check out Templins Institute YouTube channel to watch the Skylines Invicta Season 2. It's a must.
For Skylines Invicta, it gives the entire backstory for the Antares Confederacy, which obviously Sigalo is the capital of. So there's quite a lot of backstory involved in how these people got here from Earth, how their government is set up, all the different nations that make up the government, and kind of like, you know, I think it's a good backdrop for what we're doing here, and the two will heavily interact, and there's quite a lot of footage that didn't appear in the video on my channel and didn't appear in this video either. That's in that video. A lot of cool stuff that you should check out. Some cool builds that we'll eventually do a BTS video about that stuff as well.
Take care, guys, and see you in the next one. I salute you.